from the BoD Studios. It is Playin and Slayin, episode 84. We've been game-holing, dragon falling, and dragon dazing over the last few weeks. And that's what we're talking about today, is freshly returned from Madison, Wisconsin, and Gamehole, getting together with Josh, who I mentioned in this episode right now, and Troy, episode 84. I thought maybe we had a Taylor Swift reference with 84, but we don't. Got to wait till 89 for that. But 84 should be fun. So good to see you guys.
Likewise.
Yeah, it feels like we just saw you, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
It's been real recent. Ask me about an idea I have for an intro for a show sometime, Troy. But after. When you are playing and slaying, it's important to stay hydrated, my friends. What are we drinking? Josh, I'm going to start with you in hopes that you will amaze and amuse.
I am drinking a liquid death that I haven't had before. The green one. It's the green guillotine. I enjoy it. It's pretty good. I got a variety pack with like all four of the teas.
The Grim Leafer being the black tea one.
Yep, there's the Grim Leafer, and then the Dead Billionaire, and Rest in Peach, and then Green Guillotine. Guillotine.
Guillotine.
I hear both.
I think. Yeah.
I think it's guillotine too. Anyway.
Guillotine.
There it is.
Gelotine.
Green tea, agave, vitamins, delicious.
Lovely.
Yeah.
How
about you,
You amused me. Me and Bill Murray are just hanging out, drinking some coffee tonight.
Chivon.
Little delicious brew that I picked up at Gamehole, and I'll talk more about the coffee selection from these guys, but they're pretty awesome. Smuggler's Coffee. If you want to see what they have, drink coffee, crush skulls. Right here, I'm drinking Vikings of Brewhalla. It is a bourbon barrel aged single source coffee, and I, to stay on brand, added an ounce or two of George Dickel 12-year bourbon whiskey to the bourbon coffee. So,
whoa, double bourbon.
I'm staying on brand, and I've got all sorts of cool stuff now that says drink coffee, crush skulls. And we'll talk more about
we'll talk about later about how much Ty hung out at the booth.
Yeah, indeed. Troy, what are you keeping yourself up with tonight?
I have caffeine Zevia energy drink. That's not very exciting. And then I have to stay. I didn't want it. I couldn't do a beer. I was telling you guys. My stomach wasn't with it today for some reason. So I have a really cool little shot glass that I pulled. I don't know where I found this, but I think if you guys were at Summerfest. So this is the Central. What is it? Central Standard Craft Distillery. They do a Door County cherry flavored vodka. And people in Milwaukee, I believe, if you were at Summerfest, they you can buy a big vat of it or a drink of it here. So, cheers. That's all.
Excellent. Cheers. Yeah, Central Standard has a tasting room /
This is really good.
Bar.
Wow, this is really good.
Downtown Troy. We'll have to meet up there sometime and sample their wares.
All right, this is really good. I had not tried it before. I was waiting until we were on here.
I love it.
Nice.
That's a little dangerous. All right.
We'll have to invent another house cocktail.
Yeah, I was trying to get creative before, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna do a
I bet we could get a
shot.
We could do a cool layer with like a white, a blue, and the cherry vodka. It could be like a bottle pop. What do they call those things? The popsicles that are like the rockets.
Yeah.
Mom pop.
Definitely. Well, that was fun. That was really enjoyable. We stayed away from beer, which is.
Oh yeah. I didn't realize that. That wasn't
a no beer episode. Yeah. Sorry for anyone who expected beer. Yeah. We will promise to do better next time.
For more shows like this, check out the Goonhammer Media Network. More info at media.goonhammer.com.
Let's talk about what we've been playing and potentially losing or winning. There seem to be a lot of children's games on here, so I'm going to let Josh kick us off.
Sweet. Yeah, just in theme with the breakfast gaming, we played a bunch of Pokemon Labyrinth, Taco Cat Go Cheese Pizza, some Buildsy, and my daughter, for her 7th birthday, got a new game called Dig 'em Up Dinos. I thought it was going to be super fun because it looked kind of cool. Because there's like little Jurassic Park type truck, right? There's like dig spots, and there's like a fossil that you kind of put together with like the legs and the body and the head, and so you have to like go to the dig sites and dig them up, and then get back to the museum before everybody else does. It really just ends up being like whoever can spin the highest, which was a little bit of a letdown. There's not a whole lot to it beyond that. There are like dig cards that you flip over, but they just help you move faster. That was the game. So, dig 'em up dinos. I'll give you a 3 out of 10.
Slay it.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're slaying that one. We
Not
can.
so
Yeah.
good. Not so good. Looked
Let's
really
call
cool.
it-
Like setting it up, I was like, oh, look at all the components. Like everything looks really cool. And I'm reading through the rules, and I'm like, I think I'm missing something.
Nope, just a bad game.
Just
You know,
not very
I
good.
think
game design.
you can do better. Aubrey expects you to do better as your dad. That
Yeah.
you should be able to curate a little better games for her. I think she expects more.
To be fair, this wasn't from this guy.
Oh, okay, all right.
Nope.
It was a gift.
Yep.
All right, we'll give
The
it a
gift
break.
from, I think, one of her little friends at her
All
party.
right,
so,
all right. We'll give
yeah.
her a break. We did do an
Well,
interview. We
tell
did
the
an ad hoc
friends.
interview with her, and she was very good. Told us all about her.
Tell the friends' parents to listen to our show and get some better
Yeah.
ideas.
Will do.
Yeah. No
Great.
monopoly. That's all. No monopoly.
Yeah.
All right, Troy, let's hear about what you've been playing since you broke the GW embargo.
There is no GW. Well, there is somewhere over there in that, but that part of the screen over there. There's one.
I'm sorry I couldn't hear you over the noise of my Conquest miniature. What's that? Cool miniatures made from resin with great detail. What's that?
Hey, we'll loop back to that. So what Ty is foreshadowing, I got together with our buddy Eric and played Spearhead a couple weeks ago. In the midst of everything else. And it was a blast. I had a lot of fun. I haven't played a lot of Age of Sigmar at all, right, in the last couple of years. But I had heard a lot of good things about Spearhead. Literally just took my Sylvaneth army off the shelf. I brought it over, and Eric's like, "You don't have that many miniatures." I'm like, "No, that's what is in my case," and I just brought the whole thing over, and then took out the Spearhead that's in there, which is 3 units. A lot of fun. By about second, I mean, a lot of people have talked about Spearhead, but I got in, within, I would say, half a turn. By the end of the first turn, I kind of had it. All right, I got this kind of figured out. Had a really close game. I got nice catch-up mechanic. So even as me trying to figure things out, I think I lost 19-16, and really kind of there was a pivot point with a battle that was kind of in I think turn 2 or something like that kind of put me on my back foot. But I haven't played a lot of different armies. I mean, as I've kind of heard, but the Sylvaneth like fly all over the board, which is kind of their MO on that, because I can do the roots and things like that, so they can really get to object. And it's all really about objectives. It's all, and you have the 3 objectives on the board, but you don't know. It's all kind of, you have the cards that come up, and you basically, this one's hot this turn, this one's not. You can also poison some ones like that. So I had a lot of fun. I think, again, as a pickup game, can definitely tell how it's kind of the next iteration of like Combat Patrol for 40K. As it was a good thing. You can tell they've kind of refined it. It'll be interesting to see if they kind of, as they kind of go back and forth, right? What is the Combat Patrol 2.0 going to look like? But I think I trying to think of, did John? I think John came out and watched. Yeah, John showed up and kind of watched that too, and might have bit him a little bit with the bug too, because it's pretty easy to kind of like just throw. I think from spare parts around, you can almost put a spearhead together. I think we figured out he had enough orcs and from just old boxes of stuff that Adepticon gave him that he was pretty close on some of that. So we'll see. I mean, it's one of those ones that might be fun just for a when we have a game night or something, get a bunch of people together, throw down.
What if you had a bunch of Sacrosanct Chamber Stormcast? Could you throw a spearhead together?
No, you can't, Ty. Sorry.
That's right.
Although you could do it accounts as, and I wouldn't care. But
yeah.
There are two spearheads for the Stormcast.
Yeah, I'm just I'm glad that you guys had fun. I really am. But there is an embargo.
You can come over and play with Mike, because I think I have enough spare parts for a Stormcast spearhead, so you can play with mine.
Good deal. Yeah, as long as it's like free and I'm not supporting the.
There you go. You're still Mm-hmm. We could 3D print yours, and then you can play with that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Fully support that piracy. I'll fly the pirate flag.
It doesn't have piracy. They could be counts as models.
All right, Troy. What else have you been doing after mixing up some?
Yeah,
some dice?
I'll talk about a couple of the games I played at Dragonfall, and we'll get in more deeper into Dragonfall a little later. But played a game of Heat, which is great. Again, we had got that out to the table, kind of simple. The racing game, a lot of fun. Played around. I did not win on that one. And then ended up playing Clank, the classic Clank, not even Clank Catacombs or In Space or whatever. Classic Clank in the afternoon with a full table. And I did end up winning that one because I got the treasure and I got out of the dungeon, I think, and everybody else kind of died, I think, or they counted. But
you went to get the boat ready?
Yeah, and I get up. But no, I'm actually counting. It was a decisive win because because you get a 20-point bonus if you get out of the dungeon, right? I even beat the second guy by more than 20 points. So I felt like, all right, I even had it wasn't just that I was the one to get out of the dungeon. I had got enough treasure and got out for some of that too. So it's fun. Again, we haven't played that in a long time. I don't even know if I own it anymore because I have Clank Catacombs, which is probably, again, a slightly better game. Just because it gives you a little more variation, I would say not the downfall, because if you don't play Clank that often, it won't be a big deal, but you kind of have a static board. So over time, it does where all the spots are and you kind of go and do the same thing. So you can kind of overplay it, and Catacombs kind of fixes that. But again, for me, who haven't played Clank in years, didn't really matter. So it was a lot of fun. So that was it. Yeah, that was it. I think that's it for gaming. Because we didn't. Nice. Well, we'll talk a little bit about games we ran, but we'll do that a little bit later.
Yeah, so. Yeah, and I'm going to save any of the Gamehole stuff played for Gamehole. But in my pursuit to be worst parent of the year, I let my 13-year-old child play Cards Against Humanity, the original box, with my brother and his girlfriend and Nicole and myself. He was like, can we play? I'm like, this is a terrible idea, but sure, let's go for it. And it had been a long time since I had Cards Against Humanity out. And, sometimes you think maybe somebody's not going to play the really bad card. That it was unfettered. And Landon gave as good as he got for highly inappropriate card play. So, yeah. Moving on, we also played Frosthaven. The three of us with John continued our campaign.
Yep.
In our march towards learning after 40 or so games what we're doing wrong, we did discover that we've been shortchanging ourselves on the money front by putting only single coins into the loot deck, none of the double, triple, or special quest coin cards. So now maybe we'll be able to afford stuff after a few more sessions that we've been wondering why we're so broke for so long, and figure out if there are any other rules that we are playing incorrectly as that game goes on.
we'll be set for when they release. Well, I assume the third one will be called Sunhaven. I don't know, right? They had Gloom,
Yeah.
Frost. We're gonna go to like a vacation spot, right? And
Yeah,
an adventure.
it'll be
It's gonna-
Island Haven.
Island Haven. Maybe that's it. Yeah,
Mhm.
really cool stuff. So we'll be set for that. We're gonna have all the rules like ready for.
Yeah, absolutely. And then since I think we talked to you all last, we restarted our Dungeons and Dragons campaign that the three of us are in with Bryce and a few of our other friends, Paul and Heath and my brother Tom. And we had a mostly full group for the return to kind of get back into it, go off on a quest, and restart. So looking forward to having that back and going again. Revisiting some of the places now in this campaign that I had the players in a different campaign years ago journey to, and seeing what has changed and how it's different, and being able to drop in names and events that came from the other campaign as kind of historical events has been fun. So, you know,
I always get a kick out of when you weave in different names and storylines, and yeah. I mean, it doesn't resonate with everyone in the group because not all of us played, right? But
Mhm.
at least for me, I enjoy it.
Yeah. So let's go right from gaming to hobby, since we do have a tendency. And you know how last episode I was like, I am terrible. It's winter's coming. I need to reinvigorate. And so I've been doing some hobby, guys. I had
Nice.
a what I'm calling the great priming of 2024. It was actually only probably like 30 to 40 models, but it was a bunch of stuff I built over most of this year, like Shatterpoint, terrain piece or two, some conquest stuff, some Oathsworn monsters, and I just kind of lined them all up and used up what I had left in like a black spray can and a gray, and then Wraithbone. I kind of just did a spray can Zenithal and got some stuff ready. So it was took advantage of one of those kind of late fall or early fall, late fall, mid fall summer days that we've been having, where it's like 70 and sunny and perfect humidity, and primed a bunch of stuff. And then, so to get there, I started building some conquest models. So I had a Null Mage from the whatever it is, the 100 Kingdoms. I can't see the box, and some of the Rangers from one of their boxes. And I just started putting some stuff together. And then after I primed that stuff, I started painting. I found a cool video using mostly contrast paints for one of the Oathsworn monsters. So I started playing around with some different wet blending with contrast paint to get some purple tones going on some monsters. And actually put some paint on a model, which was something I haven't done in a long time. So I didn't even have a cup of water. I was just like going from contrast to contrast, and then licking the brush, and then picking up a different brush. And then it was like when you're just like, I'm gonna paint, and you don't set up at all. I had to scrape with a thumbnail one of my plastic palettes so I could get the mix of the contrast medium and the contrast paint in 4 different kind of shades, and I just went to town. So
that's awesome. Love
that's it. That's hobby. And D&D campaign planning too is hobby. So starting to write some notes and make some maps and do some of that stuff.
Excellent.
Josh, how about you, Mr. Painting models in 60 minutes or less?
Yeah, I've been trying to crank through a bunch of Marvel Crisis Protocol minis, mainly for the event that we'll talk about later. But so I painted up just to kind of get the juices flowing. It was like, okay, let's start with a easy-ish model, right? Not a ton of differing colors. So I started with Iceman, and I thought he turned out pretty well. I enjoyed kind of like the blending different blues and then kind of just doing a dry brush of white over a lot of it, and I think he turned out pretty good. I did a Black Panther that I need to go back and touch up. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what to do. I got a bunch of suggestions from folks in the BoD Discord, and I'm just trying to figure out the right way to break up some of the black, just to give it a little something. And then what I really needed to do was get some Avengers models done. So I built and primed and painted Hawkeye, War Machine, and Thor like over the course of like a week. So it might have been even less than, but
and then should we foreshadow that they may not have done something, which is classic, right? Isn't that how it always works? Like, I'm gonna bust my butt to get these done just because we probably need them, and then
Yep.
yeah, we'll talk about like we didn't need them in the end, but
yeah,
you need it. You actually needed to do it though. You absolutely needed to get them painted. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I
We-
needed the points to fill out that roster, and yeah, some guy showed up and it was like, "Hey, can I play with my minis?" And we're like, "Sure." And yeah, that was fun. But whatever. And then yeah, so I touched up some terrain for that event too. So I painted up the gun and did some caution stripes on some stuff just to give it a little, break up the color a little bit. So yeah, I think it turned out all right. I was talking to Troy on the drive up there. I really should have pulled off I did some masking uh, little stripe tape to try to do the stripes, and I should have pulled them off before it was like totally dry, because I did a couple different layers, and so then when I pulled it up, it like pulled off.
Ripped a little bit.
So
Yep.
lesson learned for me. Rip it up before it's totally dry, so that it pulls off nice and clean. So, but that was my hobby for the last couple of weeks, pretty much.
Love it. You've been a busy man.
Cranking away.
Speaking of busy, Troy, how's your electricity bill?
It's all right. It's not too bad. So, because I haven't plugged in, I think you're reading my thing. So I do have,
okay.
yeah. So literally, I have it in boxes because there was a big sale, and so I might have purchased a resin 3D printer, but
Yes.
it's going to be a project just to figure out how I'm going to get it set up and everything else like that. So we'll tune in, stay tuned, and I'll let you know when we get it all going. I also want to get a little bit, make sure I can probably use some of I have some ventilation for my airbrush station over there. I want to kind of have it do a little bit of double duty, so I can get a little bit of ventilation in there, just because I am in my basement. There's not a lot of air exchange going on unless I force it. So,
Yep.
But yeah, so more to come there. I have brand new resin printer sitting in boxes over there. So that the other one, and so you guys saw this, I forgot. That's why if you saw me in the video, I walked away for a second. I forgot you made me think about priming, and I'm looking at my thing and I do it. So combination of 3D print. I think we talked about this Kickstarter. This was the dice. It's a little dice thing for whatever your 40K or whatever else. You put dice in the top, and then they kind of come out in little rows, and so you can count your by fives. And I think this is the whatever it is, 16 millimeter one. There's a 12 millimeter one over there. So I printed a bunch of those. I think Ty, you ended up with one too, I think, because you like to paint terrain. So otherwise it's just a terrain box too, or something else like that. So put those together just to try them out. They look kind of cool. Worst case, they're going to just be terrain, or they might be a dice thing. So that'll be a fun thing to just print in there. We talked about resin, and then look at Ty. Here you go. Here's I think this is a Conquest model.
Conquest model. Yeah, sure is.
So I did again, Dragonfall. As we talked about, I played a couple of games. I did not play any big tournaments down there, but I did play the 2 board games I talked about, and then I took a painting class because I thought that would be something fun to do. So this is called Make It Glow, I think, from Captain Madlove. She's you can look at her. It's online. We'll put links in the show notes. She does a bunch of classes, and it was all about just, again, he is like flame in the video. You won't be able to see, but again, he's got some flaming stuff all over him. He's a genie a base too, so it's a good model to kind of play with that. And it was interesting. Again, I think where I struggle is like, what are the colors that you should use? So it's nice to have somebody kind of walk through like, and with her techniques, and and basically she gave you like, here's the paints that you're going to use for each step. It was kind of a combination of a lot of kind of the stippling, not quite dry brushing, more of like a stippling, heavy brush kind of in areas of different layers, kind of pop with some, fluorescent paint in there. And then it was interesting how she kind of came back that you don't really think about, the kind of the last step is actually coming through with kind of if you see kind of a purple on top of the flame. So it's like half done, right? Because we just concentrated on a lot of the flame parts on it. So, but it was good. I think it was 2 hours, something like that, 2 or 3 hours.
Cool.
Fun class. Again, it's always good to get another resource, right? Learn from somebody new. And again, she does a bunch of different stuff and was very open around, hey, if you ever need help or want to reach out or anything else. I think she has a Discord and other things. Like she's like kind of, like again, some of these are like, once you take my class, I'm available to you now for if you want to reach out and do anything, help you out with some of that stuff too. So, and again, I thought it was just interesting because there's always like, how do I make this, just another technique maybe to see how I could make something glow, right? We're always doing flames or power stuff or whatever, and so some interesting techniques of that. So I actually got because I haven't been doing a lot of painting, so it was good to kind of get back in the thing too. And I thought again, I thought she did a nice job for the class. I know we've talked about different classes, really nice equipment. We all had like our own lights, wet palettes, brushes. So I thought the actual setup,
it's a good setup.
What you're, and I think it was under $50 for a 2-hour class with the model, right, that you're getting and all that stuff. So very good. I would recommend it. I thought I got a lot out of it, and I even brought my own. As we've done this, like in my backpack, I had my own light and whatever because I'm old and I'm like I've just been in. I
want to make sure you're not sitting in a dark.
Because sometimes you're in a conference room and if the light in that, so I want to give them. It was really I would say pleasantly surprised to walk in and see every station had its own lights and everything else like that. So I want to give her props for that. So you can tell she's definitely done this a few times and it was a great experience.
That's really cool. Excellent. Well, that's some good hobby. I think we're ready to talk about some good Kickstarter / BackerKit, GameFound, whatever crowdfunding you use. I see some links here. I'm gonna assume. Can I make an assumption whose they are? I think these are both Troy's.
What?
Nailed it.
Yep.
Although I looked at the first one and I'm probably gonna back that too.
Yeah. So the first one is trading card storage system, and it basically somebody made it a bunch of printable like card storage for like whether it's Pokemon, Magic, you name it, right? Any of the card playing games, like all kinds of different cases and big cases and cases within cases, all look pretty cool. Again, and what's cool about the STLs is that it's not a whole lot of money usually. I mean, you have to do a lot of the work yourself, and but especially if you have a multicolor filament printer, you can kind of knock this stuff out pretty good. So we'll put that link in there. It's literally just called Trading Card Storage System 3D Printable. I don't even know what the company is, but that's on Kickstarter. If you go look for that, and I think it's still got probably still got maybe a couple weeks to go by the time if you're listening to us soon in the end of October. Still has a little bit. It looks like it ends sometime in the first week of November. So, and then this one just came out today, and it's already funded. Thunder Road Vendetta RPG. Because Thunder Road isn't enough. You need to play an RPG in that world. little Mad Max.
Yeah.
Thunder Road, Car Wars kind of world. And there is a crossover. We were at Gamehole and talked to someone, a disembodied voice, because their back was hurting. And so they were laying. It was funny. We went up to the table and then this voice came up because they were laying underneath the booth. to rest their back. But it was great. We had a whole conversation about everything there.
Right.
You remember this? You remember this, right? You're like, do you need? And it was this disembodied voice, like, hey, let me know if you need anything. I'm just laying here because my back is done. It was kind of funny. And one of the things we talked about was Thunder Road Vendetta, because it was coming out there. So so it'll be, again, who knows. But what's cool is you can use the board game parts in the actual game too, and some of that too. But so already funded. It's only been out for like a day, I think. Long way to go there. So
Yeah. At some point, Troy, we're going to have a discussion about when you just put a brand on a box of crap. This is not, we'll see.
If you want me to dump in a box and mark it guaranteed, I will. I got some spare time.
They have a statement here. Your role, ROLE, is your role, ROLL.
Because your car is basically your class.
Yeah. Yep.
It is what it is, Ty. It's not. There's not a lot of deep role playing going on here, man. You're running some cars. You've played Thunder Road.
I have.
You're running cars off the end of the board, so that's
I have, and it's such a deep narrative game that I am not at all surprised they had enough to make an RPG about the depth and narrative that you can get from Thunder Road.
And for the folks that are just listening, I just want to highlight the disgust on Ty's face and the sheer joy on Troy's face. The dichotomy is just fantastic. So this is why you need to watch.
This a great pair. That's what makes us a great pair.
Yep.
We complete each other.
You are the yin to my yang.
It's fantastic.
All right, let's talk about another Gamehole adventure, and maybe continuing from our last episode.
Yes. So last time we had Paul and Jen DK, Anvil Games, talking about Unknown Worlds, the new RPG that has been in development since before the pandemic started. And they launched their backer kit at GameholeCon on Thursday morning. We'll talk more about kind of that, their booth and everything, and a little bit more about the backer kit. But in the first 4 days, so the weekend of Gamehole, they were able to hit their funding goal. So the funds necessary to kind of pay the layout and the art and what they need to get it there, it has been met, and it will still be open through mid-November. And we'll talk more about that, but follow the link, go check it out. There's some really awesome digital only pledge where you get everything PDF for, I think it's like $50, or if you want the books, go nuts. There's some cool design chances to like design a character, design a monster, so on and so forth at different pledge levels. But backer kit successfully funded in the first few days, which is always awesome. So now it's just, I guess they say it's just gravy from here on out. Hit the different kind of pledge levels and bring some new content and stuff. So congrats to Anvil Games, Paul and Jen, super awesome. Very, very cool, narrative driven, very deep worlds and storytelling role-playing game. So Unknown Worlds, check out episode 83 where we really talk in depth about the game, touch on it more about what we saw at Gamehole, but would not want to miss mentioning that here in our crowdfunding segment as well.
Cool. What level did you back at, Ty?
I did the pledge where you get all the books, the 3 field journals and the core rules, and then I added a kicker to design a character for one of the settings, because I need to ensure that my legacy has a place in one of the field journals.
Fantastic.
That's great. That's
Jen
great.
is ecstatic.
Yeah,
I did that.
Ecstatic is probably that might not be the right word, but that seemed like it. Yeah,
It's a word.
it's a word. It's a word that could be described of an emotion. Yeah, sure.
Hilarious.
So yeah, once you back Unknown Worlds, go check out the other ones we talked about. Let's move into other interesting items and things of nerdery. I think the first one, guys, and I'm going to tell you this. I have discovered on Tabletop Simulator a mod called Frosthaven Enhanced. So the best TTS Gloomhaven guy made a Frosthaven, released a new version of it. If I finish that campaign before we finish our campaign, I'll let you guys know. But I am going to be starting a Frosthaven Enhanced on TTS game because it looks really cool, and I want to give it a whirl. But that is out there. I thought that was cool. And then also, more to spin off a Gamehole, but Twilight Imperium, the 4th edition, I think it's in the expansion, Prophecy of Kings, gives you a code to enable online play. So browser-based Twilight Imperium, where all the rules and all the setup and everything is handled by the online kind of engine. And you can invite people to the game and get like a 2 to 8 player or whatever it is game going in a browser. So definitely going to be checking that out in the near future on a Friday night remote with people. I don't know what else this other stuff is. So why don't you guys just jump in and go for it?
Sure, I will. Ty, you beat me. I also was trying for worst dad of the year in that Sarah and I was playing Space Marine 2. Sarah might have come down and saw me kind of, and she's like, "Oh, can I do that?" And then for about a week here, she's been coming down. When can we play Space Marine 2? And she's just, as she's better trained than me because she's been playing Roblox now, right, for however many years. So mouse keyboard is second nature to her. So she just drives and I sit and watch now, which is all I want because I'm like, I just want to see the story. and I'm just gonna sit here while you crank through and kill all these Tyranids and through that. So every once in a while she'll let me battle, but we've been working our way through that, so that's kind of funny.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know, like the gore doesn't really. It's really all it is kind of gory, and it doesn't really phase her. So
it's tasteful gore. It's Tyranid gore,
and and can we? And maybe it's just me. But I mean, I had emotional when I saw, like in the game, there's happens to be an Ultramarine Thunderhawk that you get in, and I had an emotional reaction watching the actual Thunderhawk. Like I have the model, we have the model, seeing it in the game, kind of coming in. Like I was like, this is so cool, like just so cool. And so I'm like, and I don't think Sarah appreciated it. I'm like, Sarah, look, it's the Thunderhawk. It's the same one I have, and it's flying around on the screen, and it's pretty cool. Yeah. So Space Marine 2, I'm only like, I don't know, 8%, not even. I think we're only like 5 or 8% in. So long way to go there too. Other thing on here, totally random. I've talked to her before. I follow Lindsay Burkar, who is an artist in our local area here on Patreon. She posted today, and I hadn't about Hero Forge, and basically she had done a model where she had art. She basically does a lot of D&D character art. So she'll do, like, people say, hey, can you draw my character, and do that. And she does some really cool things. And then she has taken like her character designs and created them in Hero Forge, a little bit like we did with what's our guy's name? Who's the guy we did for BoDCon?
Sir Slayin.
Yeah, Sir Slayin. I just hadn't realized, and she compared basically the post she did today was she was comparing what she had done kind of in 2022 with what you can do now in 2024. And I guess I haven't really been on Hero Forge, although we were a little bit this summer.
That's insane.
But I was like, and again, I think she's adding a lot of her artistic touch in there, but that is pretty, we'll put the link in there. Again, her character designs are really, really cool. It's just really interesting how now she's bringing that to life now in like the 3D thing. And then she mentions in there too, is she's even like, it's kind of inspired her maybe to like kind of even dive into Blender a little bit and see if she can even do some 3D sculpting of her own. So again, love Lindsay's art and stuff there. Again, somebody I think we ran into, I can't remember which local con it was. It might've been a Gamehole, or I can't remember where it was a couple of years ago, but again, just happened to be something she posted today. I'm like, oh, let's this is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at all the pictures, so I'm distracted. You guys have to carry the show.
Sorry. She's again, good stuff.
Yeah, very cool.
So if you see something you like, buy it from her. So, and then the other thing I have in here is, as we're talking, we are 154 days from Adepticon, believe it or not.
But Troy, that sounds really close. How are we going to get everything prepared if we don't start planning and talking about it now?
I know. That's why I said I did some of the Adepticon guys were in town this weekend. So I just kind of dropped in to say hi and listen to some of the plans and how we're doing on that. So yeah, it's kind of scary because we got basically also have I think we've got all our event into there as the cart's getting put together. So Matt Weeks has been working his butt off to try and get all that stuff figured out around things like that. So and I think it's going to be, there's a lot of planning, new space, so there's going to be a few growing pains and things like that. And I think we can figure out what we can do to help communicate, help people navigate Milwaukee, navigate the Baird Center. I think there's going to be a little bit, I don't want to say a shock, right? It's just like, you're going into more of a, I want to say, what's the right word? It's I would say in some ways secure, like more of it, there will be some security in the space. I think people just have to get like, how we're going to get armies in I think there's going to be a little bit of how do people navigate and things like that. So I know they'll put a lot of stuff on, but as much as we can do to kind of get the word out and help people kind of help navigate all the newness that's out there, whether it's, parking and things like that, and how to get from here to here, because it's a pretty big space too. So I think people will have to like also, I don't know, I can just feel that's a weird, people were kind of talking about, right? Is it this first one for people? I think there'll be a lot of like, I'm late, or I didn't give myself enough time to get from point A to point B and things like that until they really get a feel for the space. So, but a lot more room and things like that. So
yeah. People complain about anything given an opportunity.
Yep.
So, leave early, get there on time. Like, don't miss the start of the round because you slept in because you were too drunk the night before. Just be cool to the GMs, be cool to the organizers. If you're listening to us, you already are. But yeah, I have very little tolerance for people's BS when it comes to stuff like that, because you go to any real convention and it's Gen Con, Essen, Origin, like you're with the big boys now, the big girls. Like go be an adult.
And not so, I mean, even some of the big GW GTs and any of the big some of the big GTs even have some of that stuff, not quite, but some of that stuff too. So it's exciting, but a lot of work in the next 150 days or so to get done.
Yeah. Very cool. Speaking of a lot of work, have we been listening or reading anything chewy? Anything that's taken a while to get through? Any? Because I've been reading a book that's going to take me forever. I got back in the Malazan, Troy. Toll the Hounds, book 8. I'm listening on my commute, basically. And, 20-minute bits of a 47-hour Audible journey. I'm 26 hours in, and I've got like 18 left on 1.2 speed.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be adding like 7 books to what I got read between now and the next episode, because it's gonna be a bit.
It is
to
a
get through that.
Malazan. I literally, I think I could look. It's like, for me, it's like a month. It's like 4 to 6 weeks, I believe. So it's like I usually like plan, like I'm going to start this because this is what I'm going to then be in for the next month or so to work my way through, especially Audible when you're listening to it. But I love listening to them. They're so good. So I can run through my list quick.
Yeah.
I talked a little bit about Kane's Law. I finished that, which was the 4th book in the Kane series. Matthew Stouffer. It really, and again, he did such a great job in that series. Like each book, again, not being just the same as, the story, how he kind of changed the character, changed how he approached the story. Books 3 and 4 are really kind of the two sides of the same story, and you do want to ideally you would read them pretty close to each other. I didn't. I put years between, so I had a little bit of like, I have to kind of remember what the heck happened in the book before. But again, satisfying how that came to a conclusion, and just a really really interesting, and maybe this is a whole discussion point, whatever is. And I know on some of a Discord we've been talking about some of the lit RPG stuff, and it made me think that in some ways, Heroes Die, which was the first book, like it made me reminded me of how that book almost has the feel of a little bit of a lit RPG, because of how you basically have people kind of going into a different world. I mean, the whole point there is they're going from the Earth, which is trashed, and that they find this way to get into this other world that's kind of a fantasy world. And I'm like, you know what? This is kind of like lit RPG before it was lit RPG, and I think it's also 10 times maybe better than from a quality perspective. But it was just an interesting, as I was going through, it's like, oh, it's an interesting kind of take on kind of that whole I'm going into the fantasy world kind of thing. So again, interesting. I've talked about this a lot. Love that series. Can't recommend it enough. Speaking of books that I did forever, it took me forever to finish Manna from Heaven, which is a Roger Zelazny short story anthology. I think it's because it's short stories, so it would just be on my Kindle, and before I'd go to bed, it'd be like I'd work my way through one story and put it down, and then it might be a couple weeks before I pick it up and run through there. So finally worked through that. Again, you've heard me talk. I love Zelazny. I think a lot of his stuff really stands up from the test of time. Most of that stuff was written in the 60s and 70s. There's some really classic characters that kind of show up in some of the short stories, and a lot of, if you have never read the Amber 10 books, whatever it is, or whatever the 2 series, there's 2 5-book series, which nowadays would probably be 1 book, because if in the 70s they were little
shorter.
tiny. They're little tiny, like literally you could take all 5 and they're probably smaller than the Malazan book that you're reading for some of that. But again, I've reread those a couple of times. Love that. So getting through Zelazny, and then kind of non-fantasy stuff. Josh heard me talk a lot about when we were driving a couple hours this weekend. The new Malcolm Gladwell book, Revenge of the Tipping Point, where he revisits really a new book around kind of the tipping point was his original book 25 years ago. There's a lot of interesting things in there. As I had mentioned to Josh, Gladwell has, I think you have to always take him with a little bit of grain of salt. Sometimes he kind of is taking he's cherry picking a little bit to make his point, but I think there's some really if you take that, he still is making some interesting things that you don't have to believe what he's saying, but I think it can make you think about some of those things. But it was a good kind of fast read. And then I'm currently listening to, and I don't know why, but I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I have this addictive personality or whatever. I got somehow sucked into On the Edge, which is I'm gonna get the Nate Silver's book. The Nate Silver is the guy from 538, right? Whatever. And he and the first part, again, he was a professional poker player. He's talking about kind of the behind the scenes on all different gambling and edging, on getting the edge on whether it's sports betting and things like that. Just walking, and I don't know why it's like I'm never going to be like a professional sports bettor, but it's interesting to hear all of it behind the scenes and how some of this works and whatever. So I don't know why it's got me like every second I get, I keep listening and kind of working through it, and I don't know why it's curious. So I don't know if it's good or not, but it's just curious to find out how how some of this stuff works. So and I don't know why it was on, and I started maybe down this path listening to Annie Dukes, who was again a professional poker player back in the day, but she also does a lot of work with, again, it's interesting around risk and decision making and things like that. And the same thing around this book, right? He uses gambling as kind of the example, but it's really about what are some of the skills around how you assess risk and how do you make better decision making and things like that. So I'm only about halfway through, pretty curious. So yeah, non fantasy or sci-fi, but what's got my attention at the moment. So, and then I am diving in, but Ty, I'm going to leave you for that, because although I may get to this before you do, are you going to leave Malazan to jump into? Yeah.
It's already
Yep. So yeah. So if you're only listening, Ty might have held up Fury of the Gods, which just came out at least on Audible today.
Today. Amazon
Today.
shipped it today,
yeah.
one day pre-release, Tuesday release. Got it.
Yeah.
nice.
Yep. So I think a few of us we might actually have to
Everything-
put a book club out.
Yeah,
'cause I think
everything's
they'll
on pause until we read through this and do a book club discussion. Yep.
Yeah. So maybe we'll have to just before maybe we put it out there and say, hey, do you think by just before Thanksgiving, maybe we'll give people about a month maybe to make, I think we'd get a good half dozen people, I think, to talk about it.
Yeah, I had a Buellman book that I started reading, The Lesser Dead. It's about a vampire. I think I touched on it last time, and I'm a good halfway through it, and that just will instant pause. And when I got home, I couldn't start right away, but I read back through the characters in Fury of Gods. He does up front who's who.
Yep.
And then he does a 4-page kind of each of the main characters, what happened to them in the last book, a recap. Read that, and then I started the first chapter in a little bit before I got on here to talk with you guys. So
that'll be good. Yeah, because it's been longer for you, because you read them boom boom, and then I spaced it out a little bit because I knew it. So for me, it actually hasn't been that long since I read the second book. So it'll be good.
Yeah.
And I need to catch up on the second book.
You had
I know. For whatever reason, other books got in the way, and I have it purchased, and I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Okay,
so.
you got 2 books to read in a month.
Right.
Do it,
Yep.
Josh. Yep.
Good
Get
luck.
going, Coop.
Get going.
Pause what you're reading that you're going to
Yep.
tell us you're reading, and start.
Yeah. Well, and that's the worst, because I just started a new trilogy.
No, you didn't.
The Kingdom trilogy. These Burning Stars. Bethany Jacobs. I don't know. I can't remember where I heard about this, but it's actually it's really good. So it's a sci-fi kind of about a galaxy. There's a lot of people get to pick their gender as they mature and stuff. So you get gender marks, and there's a bunch of stuff. They go to these almost boot camp kind of training facilities for folks that are upper echelon and stuff like that. So there's a lot of flashbacks to those types of, and they're in little groups of 6 or 8 people, and they get ranked and stuff. There's all this weird flashbacks to these weird boot camps. And
Is this spicy sci-fi, Fourth Wing for fantasy books?
it's not super spicy so far.
Okay.
There's a couple little spicy scenes, but they're not very graphic at all. So
I'm calling it spicy sci-fi.
you could call it spicy sci-fi.
It's like the Court of Thorn and Roses that I've heard about. Qatar.
Yeah. I've heard of these too.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anywhere near that, but
Spicy sci-fi.
But yeah, there's different people take different walks of life.
Yeah.
There's clerics and thieves and whatever. but yeah, it kind of follows like 3 main characters. June, who's like a hacker, finds some incriminating stuff on this main house. It's the the Nightfoot house, and yeah, basically like there's these 2 clerics that are kind of after her, and then there's somebody kind of in the mix from one of the clerics' previous little boot camp, teams from back in the day. So there's a whole bunch of it's a very like rich. They kind of go into the culture, and it's very rich that way. So I don't know. I'm really enjoying it. It's got good reviews and stuff. So I'm doing a terrible job of explaining it, but it's a lot better than what I'm saying. So I would recommend it so far. It's pretty good. I'm about halfway.
I think you should read the Bloodthorn book 2 and 3 before you go to book 2 and 3 of the Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
That's my personal recommendation. No matter how good it is, Josh, catch up so you can book chat with us.
All right. Sounds good.
Your mission, if you choose to accept it, this book will destroy itself after being read.
Beep.
And what was that author's name again? I wanted to look it up, but I can't find it.
Bethany Jacobs. It's called These Burning Stars.
Sweet. Do you have a Goodreads, Josh? Side question before we move on.
No, I don't.
Troy, we gotta get
Yeah, I know.
Josh's
What is?
library on Goodreads.
Yeah, I guess I probably should. I never really thought about it.
Well, you can think about it while we take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Dragon Days, Dragonfall, and GameholeCon. And we are back for the main topic, the conning that we've been doing. Troy, I'm going to let you start as we dive into the Gamehole discussion and lead us in with the weekends that led up to Gamehole and what you might have been doing. You mentioned you're at Dragonfall. There's something else here that I'm not familiar with whatsoever. So I'm just going to hand it off to you and let you work your magic on the main main part of our show.
I will talk. We're going to lead in. So some really cool events here that all in October in the last month. In October 4th and 5th, this is the second year I think they're doing it in Lake Geneva. There's something they're calling Dragon Days Fall Fantasy Festival. And it ended up being a gorgeous weekend, which in Wisconsin, October, right, you're kind of rolling the dice. It could have been anywhere from right to snowing to 80, and it was closer to 80 around that. So they basically all of downtown Lake Geneva. And if you don't know, hopefully people, Lake Geneva, right, home of Gary Gygax, D&D, TSR, whatever. There's still a lot of residue of those things in there and around that. And so it's kind of cool that they're kind of celebrating, because after years and years that people, as stuff kind of moved out in Wizards of the Coast, there hadn't been a lot of stuff happening in Lake Geneva. So it was really cool to see them kind of celebrate it the last couple of years. And normally, right, Lake Geneva, if you're not familiar, is very much Illinois, Chicago tourist vacation destination for very beautiful place, gorgeous lake and things that it was really cool to see it kind of transformed into this kind of combination of Ren Fair and a lot of booths and things I think you'd see at a Ren Fair. But then the other cool thing is they really had, and I'll put some of this stuff up here. So they had like a whole bunch of different places you can kind of visit. So at the library, they had some stuff going on. They had some old computer games and things like that in the library. There's a mural down there of the Mistress of Dragons that was in there. the Geneva stages is like their theater was running some old, like a whole bunch of fantasy movies and things, so you could walk through the whole town around some of that. Classic was they had, again, if you don't know, Horticulture Hall, which was where the very first Gen Con was held. That was open. They were running a few games there, demo games and stuff like that. And there were a few vendors in there. I had an awesome experience. I'm kind of going around, and Jeff Easley is just kind of sitting there at a table with some of his art, and and nobody's around him. Like, and so I did some things. I stopped by, I bought a print from him, and then I'm like, Jeff, and I got a picture with him because I've been a fan forever around some of that. So for me, it was awesome just to kind of do that. We did not stand in line. You could actually tour Gary Gygax's house. But the line, when we were through there, the line was pretty long, and we actually went, my wife and daughter both went and wandered around. And I dragged Sarah through everything around some of that. And then I ended up kind of breaking off. They went over to get some ice cream or something. And another really cool experience in the Lake Geneva Museum, which is, I had never been in there. Actually, the museum, even without the D&D stuff, is pretty cool if you're ever in Lake Geneva around some of that. But they had some exhibition around basically all of the history of D&D, some really all different sets. Although it was interesting how much of that stuff actually I had owned at one point or another. But I have some pictures of some of that stuff, and it was just really cool. And again, you get there, it's all the people, it's all us people, right? So I ended up talking to just some random people too, and about, hey, I remember when we had that and whatever. And so the exhibit at the Lake Geneva Museum was really cool. I'm glad I took time to go see that too. So
Nice.
just a really, really cool weekend. I think we were talking with at Gamehole that Nate Danner, he had his booth. They do some chainmail craft and things like that, right? He was there. It was funny. We both saw each other, but we were like across and didn't actually end up meeting up. But I'm like, I think that's Nate, and he saw me at some point too. And it's like, I think that's Troy, but we never we ended up kind of being ships passing in the night over there. But yeah, just ended up being a really cool weekend. Again, family friendly, kind of and then for us, I mean, it's whatever, it's 45 minutes away from where we are here. It's a little further for you, Ty, probably, but within an hour shot to get down there. So again, I'm old, right? It's kind of the nostalgia. For me, it's, I basically was in Lake Geneva in the 80s back in the day when TSR was there. So a lot of that nostalgia came back in there. So, it was funny. I didn't even know this was going on. My wife actually saw it on like Facebook or something, like, hey, did you hear about this Dragon Days thing? And then it was funny. I ended up hearing about it also from one of my daughter's classmates' dad, who's also a gamer. He's like, oh yeah, he had been down there last year, and we ended up seeing them down there too. So that was Dragon Days. Again,
Cool.
I'll share some pictures around some of that stuff.
It's
assume
wild.
they'll do
I've
it
never
next
heard
year.
of that.
Yeah, it flew a little bit under the radar. I mean, like I said, I think this is the second year, but it was I think because the weather was good, they had some pretty good crowds. It was a lot of people. I think they lucked out with the weather too, which was pretty cool. So, so keep our eye out for it next year. Because the one thing I didn't do is I do want to tour Gary's house at some point. That would be kind of cool. Although it's this tiny little house. The only thing I want to see is I think they have a replica of his sand table or something in the basement. Cause I don't know. I think I've told that story before, but that table is what really got I think started me on the wargaming path. Cause I was in the Dungeon Hobby Shop, in Lake Geneva, again in the 80s. And it was I don't know if it was Gary's table or there was in the sand table in the basement of the Dungeon Hobby Shop where they were doing kind of a World War II or some kind of military gaming kind of thing. And for some reason that you can take your toys and you can build a map and you can fight that got I was role playing and board gaming and stuff at that time, but that thing is really what kind of started me down the whole wargaming path. So
that's awesome.
All right. Then a couple weeks later, actually, I think it was the week after, Dragonfall, which is they always say a charity gaming festival. So also in Lake Geneva at the Grand Geneva Resort is where it's been the last couple of years. It used to be in Northern Illinois in a couple of different spots. Again, luck now, it's really nice because it's pretty close for us. That's kind of an event kind of built around a couple of the big, I think they have a big 40K tournament, typically have a big AOS. I was down there, I saw kind of a lot of the usual suspect in the AOS competitive world kind of down there gaming. I think Mark he was running that event, I'm pretty sure, around there. So good. Like I mentioned everything I did there. I just went down and played board games. Again, went down with my family. We stayed at the water park. There happens to be a water park at the Grand Geneva if you stay over at Timber Ridge. So that was it was a great. You go, you game, and then in the evening you go sit in the hot tub at the water park and whatever. Right? I think I like that vibe. Like we're gonna keep doing that too. So and then the cool thing is, again, the group that met some pretty cool people. So Wisco Dice, which is Ben Conesy is what he goes to. Ben Cones is his name. His wife Suzanne, and then another guy from their group called Matt. He actually ran the Clank game I talked about. Ben and Suzanne actually ended up playing Heat with in the morning around there. So they're called Wisco Dice. They have a kind of a podcast and a group. They like to run a lot of board games and things at kind of local convention. They're trying to get kind of again, Dragonfall is trying to kind of expand like a lot of different conventions, right? Just from the wargaming side to kind of open up some of the board gaming and some additional things like that. So they're trying to create some things there. So I would say reach out, check out them. Again, they have a lot of cool stuff on their site around that too. And then I'll just shout out to, again, some good vendors. I think they have trying to think what's the store down in Illinois? It starts with a G. I think it's Grognar. I think they were there too. Elric's Hobbies. I don't know where I lost his card. So Steve from Elric's, ended up talking to him. We picked up some of the old tiles from Secret Weapon around that too. And then it was funny, I just ended up running into Steve again at he came up for the Adepticon meeting because they had a lot of the vendors walking. That was a lot of vendors and things walking through the beard. So Elson was there, and I'm like trying to put it together because I'm like, hold it, why did I recognize this guy? How do I know him? And then I'm like, wait, you're the Elric's guy or whatever. And it was good to kind of catch up and talk with him again, because we ended up chatting. Again, what's cool about Dragonfall is it's not huge, right? There's a lot of time to just kind of sit and chat. And again, I think what was really cool was Creature Caster was there, which I wouldn't their booth setup was pretty crazy. Because that was surprising me, like, whoa, why is Creature Caster? Like, are they gonna? And what I found, I talked to them, and what they said is they were actually, it was like they were going to another convention. I can't remember where it was, like the following week, and it made sense. Like I think there's a relationship there with somebody, and then so they were there because that was, I don't know if did I buy some? I don't know. I might have brought some hobby stuff or something from, but it was pretty cool to see their full, like it was pretty much their full booth, like you say at Adepticon. Almost everything there that they had out for Creature Caster there too. So again, I love that convention. Again, in years past, I played in some of the 40K events. I think we've had like Dan Bears and other people play in the AOS event and things there over the years. And I again, now that it's in Lake Geneva, also makes it pretty convenient to kind of shut down there. And then they have again, they really talk about being a charity event. I think everything they do, they try and do charity. They have a huge charity raffle. So basically you can raffle tickets, and they have a whole kind of wall area where you can kind of different prizes that they give away kind of over the weekend and things like that. So a lot of stuff going to great causes. And again, a lot of it's our people, like, war gamers and things like that. And again, now starting to, and again, I talked about the hobby classes too. They're starting to really get a nice slate of hobby classes in there too. So
cool.
So that's been there. And then now for you guys. And then 2 weeks later, we all went to Madison.
We did. Madison, I'm going to say it, the greatest city in the United States of America, situated on an isthmus between 2 lakes, Mendota and Monona, home to the University of Wisconsin, and all that is amazing is GameholeCon. 11 years running, I believe.
Yep.
From the halls of the Sheridan on John Nolan Drive to the open expanse of the Alliant Energy Center. Seeing the growth over 11 years has been incredible, what Alex, Kammer, and team have done. Gamehole is one of those conventions that I think there is truly something for everyone. If your thing is Magic the Gathering, there's now CubeCon. If your thing is role playing, there are hundreds of hours of role playing events. If it is, tabletop board gaming, there is the Milcog Library and all sorts of events.
Yep.
A small miniature presence starting, like True Dungeon comes there if you enjoy sliding tokens. RPX or whatever, RPEX, the new kind of a little more D&D live dungeon experience is there. So I mean, it's truly got all sorts of stuff. It's got awesome representation from folks in the industry. We'll talk about some of those that we saw walking around, just kind of hanging out. But Gamehole, definitely on the list of, like, I will make a point of attending every year that I can. And I think that's a good intro. Let's talk about what we saw, what we enjoyed, what we played, what we did. And I'm gonna just steal the microphone and talk a little bit about Anvil Lake Games. Already talked about the backer kit and its success as lead-in, but they launched on Thursday for Unknown Worlds, a new role-playing game. Go back, listen to the last episode, you'll hear all about it. So I'm not going to talk through that. But at the booth, they had a bunch of character sheets and some dice and pens and kind of short form versions of the rules, so people could come sit down and actually make a character. Get a feel for the flavor of the game and some of the options. And they also had a kind of a little higher side demo table with Little Demons, which is a kind of, I don't want to call it a screw your neighbor, because you're not really. Sometimes you're screwing yourself with some of the cards, but it is really cool. The art is done by Elizabeth Whalen. Sorry if I mispronounced it. She is a student at Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design who did kind of an internship for Anvil Lake Games, paid internship, and the feature artist. So used some sketches from Paul and Finn and Quinn, the kids, to kind of make the designs. But they had the big demons and they had kind of a pre-release version. There's still some layout cleanup that is going to happen. So there was a little bit of demos of the new Little Demons game that Paul also has ready to go and will be going to print for midwinter in January. So they had that out. I don't know if I took any pictures, but I'll try to get some. I know, Troy, I think you had some media stuff. So Anvil Lake Games was cool to sit and hang out. I did my thing for a little bit. Every so often I'd see somebody looking at the cards and I'd give my spiel and tell them about it and show them how it works. And I made a character. Well, I made a couple characters, one in each of the settings throughout the weekend. But yeah, Anvil Lake Games, funded Sunday afternoon, said that right now, if you go look, they are at $3,420, and there is no reason we can't get that higher. So go out and back. It is pretty cool to see what a small army of people, friends, family, and others can do to rally and get it. Because, big shout out to the Basement of Death. I think there was a lot of, obviously the three of us and other friends of ours that helped support and back and bring that to fruition. And there's still a lot of room for it to go. So if you're seeing this on YouTube, if you're finding this, you got time. The backer kit is open until I think it's the weekend of November 15th, which is a Friday. And if you are local and you're in Milwaukee, there will be a kind of last backer kit weekend hurrah party / character creation jam session at Old Guard Games in Milwaukee, Friday, November 15th. So more to come there. But if you're local, certainly stop in at Old Guard, scan the QR code, and back that game. Any Anvil 8 stuff from you guys? I'm sorry, I
No,
went
it's
into
good.
marketing mode.
Again, we talked a lot about Unknown Worlds. I know. Was this the first kind of unveiling of Little Demons, or has that been out there? I
Yeah,
mean, I
yeah.
love that. Again, we've seen a little bit behind the scenes. I love that game, and then the art is just again, we hopefully can show some stuff. It like exceeded my. I don't know. I don't know what expectations were or whatever, but it's just so cool. Like, and the fact that that you had one artist do it all too really gives it some nice cohesion and around some of that
Yeah.
too. I'm almost just as excited for the Little Demons game to come out too, because I think that's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah, we were shuffling through the deck and picking out like our favorite artwork and our favorite cards and stuff. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it was great catching up with Paul and Jen. Yeah, we chatted with Paul and Jen for a little while, and then Paul had to go run a game, and I think Troy and I sat and talked with Jen for almost an hour, and we're like, oh, we should probably like let you get back to the booth stuff, and she's like, it's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a moment too that was really cool on Sunday. Paul ran a game for it. It ended up just being a father and daughter. The daughter was probably 6-7 years old. And it was the kind of the Cozy Quest, the Village of Animals. And I walked over to say bye to Paul on my way out. And then I overheard the little girl talking about what had happened to her character because she had eaten some poison berries, and she had butterfly wings, and it looked like a little like mouse or something. And I had the idea, and I don't know if it's too late, but I was like, Paul, you got to put like coloring book pages in the front of the Cozy Quest field journal of like sketches, because the little girl had drawn her character. She had a little drawing of it at the table as her dad and her were playing. And it was just super awesome to see like a game that can play to that audience and a game that can play to kind of that dark gothic horror of the Victorian like age, like Cthulhu-esque, right? Because that's the flexibility of Unknown Worlds. And that was just a moment where I was like, this is really cool. Like seeing that. And the girl was so excited about her character, her drawing, and the dad was like, we'll see what happens. She ate the berries.
Pretty cool.
That's funny. Very cool.
So, Anvil 8, Little Demons, Midwinter Gaming. Come check it out. Get on the backer kit. I'll turn off my marketing.
And then Troy ran, well, I guess Troy and I kind of ran Zombicide Invader on Friday night. Was that Friday night?
That was Friday night. It's all kind of blurry.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just pulled out one of the. I pulled out one of the one of our. I don't know. Is it classic now? Whatever. One of the Zombicide Invader scenarios we've run at a couple different cons. Just kind of dusted it off, pulled it out, had a full table. Again, thank Josh for helping come along and help doing it, because it just makes it so much easier when you have another person to kind of run through there. Ended up being like 3 groups of 2, right? A couple couples, and ended up it was funny. There was a father and son who I actually I'd worked with. I knew the father. I actually worked with him for a couple of years. And I knew he had been a gamer and seen that. So it was funny when I saw his name on there and showed up. So that was a blast again. It wasn't too bad. I think we ran in about 2 hours. It was kind of normal. That was good too. So, but that was kind of we came in Friday, hung out a little bit, and then ran that. And I think from like 7 to 9ish, and then rolled out. And then we turned right around on Saturday morning and headed back to Madison, where I helped. We kind of flipped roles, and then I helped Josh run a Marvel Crisis Protocol. So Josh can walk through that.
Yeah, so we did the Thanos Ultimate Encounter, the Infinity Gem or Infinity Gauntlet Thanos, collects all the Infinity Gems and becomes, unstoppable, and so and that's what I was, painting all the minis for, and guy, was it Tori? I think.
Yep, Tori. Yep.
Yeah, Tori showed up and he was like, "Hey, can I bring, or can I play with my minis?" And we're like, "Sure, yeah, like rule of cool, right? Like let's throw yours in." And so we just had to kind of like shuffle a few characters around, and it was totally fine. So they what did he brought Apocalypse, which was awesome to see the
Yep.
model like actually painted and like ready to go. So I think both Troy and I, maybe Ty too, I don't know, have purchased that model already. So it's like it was cool to see it like already ready to go, because it's been maybe just like 2 weeks since it's been out, so maybe 3 weeks, I don't know. Anyway, and let's see, who else did he bring? He brought Psylocke.
Oh yes, and Ronan.
And Ronan, yeah, I think that was
Yep.
was it. So we all the characters that I had spent time painting, we just took those off the table and whatever. Which was totally fine. Totally, I needed to paint them anyway. So, I think, without going to too much detail, it came down to like the last activation, really. Thanos was bouncing around doing his Thanos thing, and they kept keeping suppression tokens on him to damage him. And honestly, if the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 dice rolls had gone in their favor, they probably would have won it, because he only had like 4 or 5 hit points left.
Yep.
So yeah, it was a really close one, and it was interesting. So yeah, no, it was cool. And they weren't too upset by it. Like they were right in it up until the end. So I think it was an okay loss for the players. So
Yeah. No, it ended up being good. It was good. It was funny. And then I also knew a guy in this one who I also had worked with in in the past. And Dan, who again I knew met him at a couple different conventions too. I knew he was a gamer too. It was funny when I saw his name on there and he showed up to play too. So, and it was like, I think it was it was a nice mix. We had a couple of experienced players, a couple of newbies, and I think one guy who was kind of like in the middle, right? I think he was kind of aware of it, but didn't know all the rules. So it was nice because Dan and Tori were able to kind of keep us all in line with, again, because a lot of the characters, right, all the different rules and things like that. So it was good kind of refresher to get that and make sure we were doing things right, not forgetting stuff on both sides, right, around that. And then they also were able to kind of help because I know Tori helped a lot. I can't think of the guy who was sitting next to us, who was a newbie. It was nice because he was able to kind of help him, and we didn't have to kind of do as much of the rules teaching, because he was like, they were able to help. He was kind of help them kind of plan their turn and do some of the stuff too. So so it's good. Again, the whole point was to kind of get get kind of the first turn of the running the scenario. We've run the scenario for us a couple of times, but running it for kind of the public, we'll call it, right, and kind of figuring that out, and what's the setup, and Josh had everything from the storage and everything else like that was good. And I think we might have learned a round table might be the best. We did have a 5-foot round table, and I actually took notes for that for Adepticon to say what kind of table we might want to do some of that, because it feels like some of these events work a little bit better on just if you can get a nice big round table, just to get everybody around kind of that 3x3 board or something else like that. So
yeah, specifically the 3x3 with a 5 or 6 foot round table, you have enough space to kind of put stuff and tokens and whatever, but people aren't reaching like way over, so yeah, it worked out great, I thought.
Yep. And we learned a lot. We have a little bit of work to do. Again, we want to thank Tori. And it's funny, I reached out to Dan because I ended up not getting, we were going to connect with Tori and get some of his contact information. I don't know if you did, Josh, but I didn't.
I forgot.
So I was actually reaching out to Dan to see if we can get it connected to Tori, because he had a ton of really, again, super useful kind of 3D tokens, counters, kind of the boards and things like that. So you don't need to have as many of the loose counters and things like that, which I think kind of bog it down a little bit. So I think we're going to really try and get the 3D printers kind of running along and kind of get all this little extra stuff around for MCP. I think as we want to run that a little bit more and more. So
Yeah, he had
Cool.
a lot of good handy little extras, right?
that were
helpful.
really cool. So
Yep.
Excellent. Who won who would have won? Who missed the role? What hero failed to kill Thanos?
It was
Wolverine.
who was that in the corner at the end? I'm trying to think. Was it because
Hawkeye?
you had no Hawkeye didn't play.
Hawkeye,
He
yeah, he
stayed
didn't
home.
make it. He didn't make it. It was, who was it? I forget.
Black
Who
Widow.
got the shot? No,
Cap.
Captain America. Doesn't it Apocalypse? Was it Apocalypse and Captain America had at the end, or who was in the corner? Because Thanos had kind of jumped to the corner to get away. He was to get away from. So only a couple characters were able to get close enough to get. I know Captain was one.
Iron
I
Man.
can't think. Was it Iron Man? Yeah, it might have been Iron Man and
Iron Man.
Cap and Stark screwed up.
Yeah,
Yep.
they had their shot. Yep, and then the same.
Yeah.
And it was that was really cool. Like it did, like that was that turn. Like they had their chance to finish him because he was down under 6 hit points, and then he had the last thing to destroy the last one, and that could have went wrong too. Like so they could have technically might have had another shot. So I think that's where everybody. It just felt it was really satisfying. It was like
the last panel is Cap and Iron Man looking dejected as
right.
Yeah,
and they're like, we got to start over.
All right. I needed a character to blame. The narrative in me needed to know who is the failure.
And then he snapped.
Yep. And they have to do another movie.
Yep. And Robert Downey Jr. will be cast as a new character. All right. So playing games at GameholeCon. Did the Airbnb thing with Matt and Elena in town from Seattle. Obviously, Elena had her booth that was open Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Thursday, she did like a hang out with family and just kind of enjoy Madison for the day. And then she was working Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But throughout various times, all sorts of people came through. Barry, John Scott was there, Nathan Danner and his wife Tamsin, my brother Tom. It was fun, just kind of circling through and playing games. We got ARCs to the table the very first night, Wednesday. It was late, so we didn't do a full game, but taught Matt and Elena and John ARCs, and that was enjoyed. Instead of passing the little first player miniature, there was like a table runner that looked like a shawl, and we had it be the first player shawl that got passed around the table.
That's great.
Had played Daybreak a handful of times. The first time with John and Matt, lost real bad. Then we played it again the next day, and we won. Then we played it with Barry with 4 players, and we won.
Nice.
So now, like, I think we figured out kind of how to do it on like easy mode, and then we looked at the challenge cards and we're like, wow, now this is where it gets real when you introduce the challenge cards and make the game harder. But Daybreak, I think we talked about that on a previous episode. Matt Leacock, pandemic. It's climate change, trying to solve the climate crisis as the various world powers. So that was a lot of fun. Played Twilight Imperium. It got set up on Friday evening and started very late and went very early and didn't get very far. But had a lot of fun playing 5-player TI 4th edition with the expansion, the setup, the seeing Matt take his kind of Great Devourer type spacefaring race and Alpha Strike Tom on turn 1 and destroy most of Tom's fleet, and then Tom be sad and dejected for 5 hours of Twilight Imperium. Some early battles, some negotiation. It had everything that you look for in a game of TI, including 6 hours with no resolution or end in sight. But it was a lot of fun. And then I bought a game that I thought would be fun, and we busted it out Saturday, and it turns out it was pretty fun. It's called Beast. It is a 2022 game. It's hidden movement. One player plays the role of a monstrous kind of creature or beast that has been kind of causing trouble for the villages and the settlers and farmers and stuff, eating animals, attacking villages. And the other up to 3 players are hunters that take out a contract to hunt down the monster. So the monster is moving using a deck of cards. Everything is card play. So you kind of draw a hand and draft. And the monster has some beastly talent cards and monstrous abilities. The hunters have their hunter abilities, and they have an item deck that they can add cards. And you are taking up to 2 actions of different types on each turn. And the monster might play a move 2 spaces. So then you put cards down that have like compass directions, north, and then you track on your own little mini board. And the players know the monster has moved up to 2 times. And at the beginning, the monster starts in the middle. So you kind of place your hunters around, and the monster is at a starting location, but then it disappears. And you have to come across, if you move across a place where a monster has moved recently, you put a little trail marker down, and then that they at least have gone through there. And the monster reveals itself when a hunter searches on their space or the monster attacks. And then you clear the movement cards, and you kind of have lost the recent track, and you have to pick it up from there, but where it appeared. So it's this really kind of cool cagey game where one player is like moving around, and I'm pretty excited to get it to the table with you guys. It's a lot of fun, and I think it's one of those games that, having played it once now and understanding it a little better, will be a lot smoother. But it's a really good hidden movement game. I think it's like a 7.6 on BGG, so like pretty well received.
Yep.
The art's cool. The components are pretty good. So happy I picked that one up. Hidden movement games are kind of like Danner's jam. He really loves them.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to get this and
Nice.
we'll play it.
Cool.
And then at Milcog, one day we had like an hour or 2 to kill before Barry had to head home to kind of like prep dinner and put the kids to bed and then come back out. So we played a dice placement game. It should be called anything except for Dice Hospital, because the dice rolling is like minimal and just kind of annoying, because you roll these dice and you have to keep re-rolling to put the dice in the ambulance. The dice are your patients. You build out your hospital and then assign like different rooms to it and different medical staff to cure the dice, and it like spin down the dice as they lose health if you don't tend to a patient each turn. And once it gets to 1 and expires, it dies, and you put it in the mortuary and lose victory points, or you heal it and you get to check it. So like, I don't know, the dice were kind of stupid and annoying. And the game was, it was like a 5 or a 6. But we of course had some fun making fun of the game as we played it.
That's kind of funny. Yeah, I don't think I feel like because I was familiar with it. So I either watched the demo back at Gen Con a couple years ago when it came out or something like that. But yeah, that's funny because I know that, interesting to get your perspective, because I think I don't think I had played it, but I was kind of familiar with it as you're saying that. I'm like, yep, I remember that game. So
And then Saturday with Nate and Tamsin, Matt and Tom, we're looking for something that was going to be equally quick. And I think you guys walked up when we were playing Architects 7 Wonders. Pretty quick, pretty low, kind of low decision. You're just picking a card left or right or in the middle, trying to build your wonder. For what it is, it's good.
Yep.
It plays quick. I think it's a little too light for me to really enjoy it, but it's solid. Like,
it's
easy to
and it
learn,
is a
easy to
nice.
go.
I think it has a nice spot for when you do have a large group, right? You can get because it does play up to like even more than
Up
that
to
now.
7
I think
or 8
7,
now,
and
yeah.
even then, with the expansions you can do that, and it really doesn't really add a whole lot of time on because you're working through on some of that stuff. So it's a nice for what it is. It's in that nice little spot, and I think it's got decent components too. I think you can attract people to play it too, because it kind of looks cool.
The art is well done, and it's a 7 Wonders game, right?
Yep.
Like you're not getting something that's super deep, but you're getting a solid game. Give it a 7.
And if you like that 7 Wonders like art style and that kind of theme, right? It's right in there, right? So
Yeah, and that was those two, Dice Hospital and Architects, were at the Milcog Milwaukee Company of Gamers, their board game library. Go kind of give them your ID, check out a game, get a table assigned, and go sit. They had plenty of open space. It was really cool to see. The interesting thing is, I used to think the Milcog Library was expansive, and then I went to the Gamers Ranch, and now Milcog just falls a little short of what a game library could be.
Yeah, and it kind of looked like board game prison. Because you basically, I understand
go into
that you
the
have
corral.
to right. You're like it's
was
all fenced off. There was a lot of structure going on over there.
Yeah, I'm sure they're trying to contain their inventory.
Yep.
So yeah, that was kind of the rush of what got played. I know you guys ran events. I didn't run any. I think at midwinter I'm going to do some running of things, be it Little Demons or maybe a couple of Unknown Worlds games, but did not at Gamehole. Yeah. Let's talk the exhibit hall, the vendors, what we saw. I'll let you guys start. I had some notes that I can go off of and share my stories, but anything you guys saw or picked up that you want to share?
Not a whole lot. We got some half price Marvel Crisis Protocol models. That was probably our big win. That was probably our big one. We might have been kind of focused on what we were doing. And then I don't know. Yeah, we didn't do a lot of heavy shopping. Look at that.
I got a 70% off Thanos.
Nice.
On Sunday they flipped it all to 70% off.
That's great.
Yeah, that was good. But I don't know, Josh. I didn't do a whole lot of. I'm trying to think. What did I? Oh, I did buy. Again, Ty, you're just gonna laugh. I bought a combination graphic novel, some kind of role-playing racing game. So I walked by a booth. I saw this book that had some kind of it looks like an anime style, kind of like Fast and Furious kind of cover. The guy said, yeah, it's like the first part's like a graphic novel. It tells a story. And then the second half of the book is like some kind of game. And so it was $20.
And he went, it's sort of like racing themed. And I'm like, well, you just sold it.
There's a car on the front. There was a car and whatever on the front. I'm like, all right, I'm taking the dive on that one. So that was kind of it. I think, I mean, that's kind of the normal for Gamehole. I just like that. I love that vendor hall. Like, it is such a nice combination of, again, kind of, there's some good tent pole, free league, and some good stores, and then you get a lot of good artists, including Elena and other interesting artists, and a few kind of crafty kind of things, not super crafty. Like, I think sometimes you get too much, but some really interesting, really cool crafty things. So nice. And again, that vendor hall has grown. Like, I think they're almost filling up that whole hall now. Where in years past there's kind of been that. So I think that was about it. And then like Josh said, we spent a lot of time just sitting in the Anvil 8 booth. So
chatting. Ty did talk me into getting some Smuggler's coffee. We were walking by and he goes, "This is great coffee," and I'm like, "All right, I'll buy some coffee."
Yeah, and when we were walking by, they were down to like 3 bags. So you got like one of the last 3 bags of the Bone Grinder, I think, is the one that you scored.
Yeah, big Viking on the front, or Barbarian.
Yeah. So let's real quick, Smuggler's Coffee. I've seen them there before. I think last year when I saw them, they were out of coffee, and they had some cool T-shirts. They had like it was like the Hellfire Club T-shirt from Stranger Things, but it was like caffeine club. Yeah, it was something with caffeine. It was like the fiend, hellish fiend or whatever. But it was coffee themed. This year they had like a skull, and it was the Drink Coffee Crush Skulls shirt that looked pretty cool. They didn't have any super big sizes though when I was asking, and I'm a big guy, so did not get a shirt. But Dave and I think it's Pete, are brothers. Dave is the owner, their head roaster. They've opened in like 2017, and they're in northwestern Indiana. So they're like right down the street from Three Floyds in Dyer, Indiana. So kind of a Midwest coffee roaster. And
Cool.
they've been doing gamer themed like coffee for 7 years now. And they've started to work with. They can't put the names of the distilleries on some of their stuff, but they may use one of the bourbons or whiskeys from Three Floyds Distilling. They may use Four Roses to make the Vikings of Brewhalla. They can't like put what bourbon company or barrels they use, but for their barrel aged stuff. And they have a lot of single source coffee. So I bought the bourbon one, I bought the bone grinder, and then I bought a Tomb of Caffeination. It has kind of like the Tomb of Annihilation old cover art that's been modified, and that's a Italian espresso roast bean. So pretty excited about the coffee offerings. Also, I said, hey, we do a podcast. We talk about where we're drinking. It might be cool to have you on sometime. The guys seem to be interested, so we'll see. I got his card. I might reach out and see if we can have a what we're drinking episode.
Yeah.
And talk to them, because I'd like to hear the story about the gaming, where gaming meets coffee, and the story there. I think it would be pretty cool. They were super nice guys, and they looked to be clearing through their coffee. And we did open up the Brewhalla because we needed the Folgers at the Airbnb was terrible on day one. So I was like, I'm gonna buy some coffee, and Elena went and bought a coffee grinder when she was out running errands. So then we had like a pot of coffee going constantly at night as we were playing games till 4:30 in the morning, and when we'd wake up at 10 being wiped out. So
nice.
Troy, you did talk about finding a random RPG, and I would be doing a disservice if I didn't share a game that my brother found walking through the hall on Saturday that we almost started playing at 3 a.m. Skate Wizards, a steezy role-playing game about radical and arcane shredding of the gnar.
Yeah, that was just you guys have to
the chart
the chart on the back, just like when I saw the card, the chart on the back sold that game. Like that
where
was
you
like,
name your wizard, or you name your skateboard,
skate trick.
Your trick.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Skate Wizards. It's a little like paper book with a drawing, a picture of a skateboard with some like stickers on it that clearly you're made to like design and draw your own stickers and name your wizard. Skate Wizard, steezy role-playing game about radical and arcane shredding of the gnar. So that's we'll let you know if Tom gets that to the table. But Skate Wizards was the RPG that he impulse bought. And we had a good laugh reading through it, talking about characters and what to do on Saturday. Then Smuggler's Coffee, Skate Wizards. Let's talk about the book that you may have seen. I hid it here so that it would be off screen as I recorded. There, I got the light out of the way.
It's upside down.
It's upside down. My bad.
There we go.
Dungeons of Drakkenheim. So evidently there's a streaming show called the Dungeon Dudes that did this is like their home campaign. I'd never heard about it, but Ghostfire Gaming did Grim Hollow, which is a cool like 5e set, kind of gothic horror themed, and I've borrowed some of their monsters and some of their stuff for various campaigns, and always liked Ghostfire. Sean Merwin is he's done a lot of D&D stuff over the years. He's one of their kind of lead creative execs. James Introcaso is another guy that contributes on a lot of D&D stuff, who does Ghostfire Gaming kind of creative. But this really was the publication they did with I think the Dungeon Guys or the Dungeon Dudes. I forget the name.
Yeah.
And we were sitting there at the Airbnb Saturday or Friday talking, and Matt said, yeah, there's this campaign setting. I think Ghostfire has it. I said, what's this? And he goes, it's like if you took like Mordheim and Waterdeep. So a meteor slams into this big city, and then there's all these factions. Some have negative opinions of the corruption that's coming from the meteors. Others see it as a positive source, like the Warp Stone from Mordheim, the old skirmish game that Games Workshop did back when they used to make good skirmish campaign games. And I just was like, yeah, let's do it. And Matt's like, man, it would be really fun to get back to playing Sunday D&D. And I was like, all right, cool. So I went and bought the book, and then I bought it on Roll20, and then I started a game, and I started playing around with Jump Gate beta on Roll20. So I mean, I think I'm going to be running another Sunday game set in Drakkenheim here in the near future. So very cool product, excellent books. They had a player's guide too that had some stuff outside of the city. This book is a self-contained kind of 1 to 12 or 1 to 13 like campaign adventures. So pretty stoked, and they had some really cool stuff at their booth. So I would recommend checking them out. If you're looking for kind of a third party D&D supplements.
Yep, pretty cool. Yeah, and now that you say it, I know we talked about it there, but it didn't until you said that. I think there is some, like I stumbled upon something on YouTube or something where those guys they talk about, I don't remember what it is, the Dungeon Dudes or whatever. Again, when they put the book together, around some of that. So yeah, you can, I'm sure, find stuff too online where they talk about everything in there and their campaign and so forth.
Yeah. I don't know, cool jewelry. I bought some earrings with like Squirtle for Nicole.
Yeah.
There were some t-shirts that were really cool. A t-shirt vendor. I'll try to find
Yeah.
the link and send that to Troy, because I can't for the life of me think about the name, but she had some really awesome art. Some cool kind of stuff that celebrates like neurodivergence, and a shirt that was kind of rainbow D&D classes like Paladin and Cleric, Bard, and then there was one, the Fey Agenda, and it was rainbow, and I was like, that's so good.
Yeah.
Like, so I definitely want to get the name out there and share the link to her shop. And then I had a cool because I know Matt Danner gaming celebrity moment. So we decided to not go to the 50 years of D&D seminar Friday morning, where Adam Lee and Jim Zub and others would be talking about 50 years of D&D. Michael Whitwer, the new book that Adam Lee wrote, the Worlds and Realms: Adventures from Greyhawk to Farron and Beyond. So didn't go to the panel, but then we were walking around Friday when we did get to the con, slightly after like 12:30, 1 o'clock. And at the table there was seated Jim Zub, Michael Whitwer, somebody else, and Adam Lee. And I'm like, oh, cool. And Danner goes up and he's like, Adam, what's up, man? And Adam's like, oh, hey. And Aaron's like, my buddy Ty, I remember he hung out with you and Richard Witters.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, Ty, it's been a long time, man. That was like 8 years ago. How you doing? I'm like, I'm shocked if you remember anything about that lunchtime conversation, but cool. And he stood up from the table and literally talked to Matt and I about the book and about writing it and telling stories from Mordenkainen's perspective and like all this stuff.
Really
As the guy, people are coming up and signing books, and a pile is just building on Adam's chair as he spent like 15 minutes talking to us. Like, we didn't wait in line. We just kind of, beelined up.
Yeah.
And Adam talked to us about the writing process and working with, the finding all the art, and Matt's flipping through the book and like naming, oh yeah, here's, a pool, here's Kovacs, here's, Darkin, all the magic artists that have done D&D stuff, and some of the art in the book. So Worlds and Realms, I didn't pick up a copy. They had a few at I'm Bored, but I likely will. It looks pretty cool. And as Adam was talking about it, he kind of wrote it like Mordenkainen is doing research and then exploring this world for the first time, and sharing notes and vignettes. And then at the end of each chapter, there is a different contributor provides like a short story or a bit of narrative or description about something as they kind of go through Farron, obviously the Forgotten Realms world that's so central to D&D. So I had a really cool kind of separate sidebar Friday afternoon with Adam Lee. Super appreciative that he took the time, and then he had to go back and catch up on like 20 signatures. But it was really awesome, just moment, like, when you're at a con, like seeing Eric Lang get ice cream as I'm waiting to get coffee, and like just Gamehole is so cool at who comes and who they get.
And maybe we didn't even, again, maybe because it's always been that way again. And Ty, like you and I have been there since day one. We went on the first. We were there. We've been there all 11 years, even though my badge only says 10 on it because
I know my badge says 8 because I screwed up registering once. I set up a separate account and I did on site one year.
Yeah, it's like that. But we've been there since. So but it's all they've always been able to get really luminaries from the RPG world, and again, new and old. And it was again, like what was it, Saturday, where it's like Chris Perkins is just kind of sitting at a table.
Yeah,
well, there's like no one,
nobody
like
coming to talk to him.
nobody, yeah, like one person over there talking to him. It's like, hey, that's Chris Perkins,
right? At one point I walked up and no one was there. I'm like, Chris, how's it going, man? So happy you're here. Thank you for all that you do. It was just one of those moments. He's like, oh, thanks, man. And I was like, I don't got anything to sign. I just wanted to say thanks for making worlds for us to play in.
That's cool. And then Saturday morning, like we're running our game, our MCP game. Jeff Grubb, and I hope everyone knows that name. Jeff Grubb's running a game like a table away from us. And then we're playing at some point. If Harold Johnson, who's like TSR, right, forever, he comes by, and I don't know, Josh, I think was focused there, but he came by for about 10 minutes and just kind of talking with me and whatever. And I was in about whatever, and I was kind of explaining the game to him and what, and that's just kind of the stuff that happens at Gamehole. Like you just kind of like there's these people and they're just gamers just like the rest of us, kind of in the mix. So it's kind of cool.
And to that point too, I would be doing a disservice if I don't talk about our friend Elena. So Elena's art over the years, seeing that kind of just get better and better and better and better and more renown and recognition, comes to Gamehole, which is a very small convention compared to the Pro Tour events. And I can't tell you the number of times where I heard somebody at her booth when I would be just hanging out, checking in, say, this is so cool you're here. I saw the line. It was like 7 hours in Amsterdam. I couldn't do that. Or I tried to see you last time in Vegas, but it was like a 6-hour line. And, people would wait 15 minutes and just hand a stack of cards, pay for signatures, buy a print, buy a play mat, and just interact with her because they've had to go to like a ticketing system for some of the events. And at the Pro Tour stuff, her line is hours long, just hours. And a number of people, one guy was like, I'm from New Mexico, I came up for CubeCon, but then I saw you were here and I was like, I just had to stop because I don't know when I'll get a chance. And hearing people say that to, someone that is a dear friend, like is so cool, and just want to celebrate, her career and kind of how she has carved out this existence of beautiful landscapes, incredible like art, and just so personable and nice to everybody. Gives everybody the time of day just to come and talk and, share stories. And so like, it was just pretty cool. Like that's the culmination of Gamehole is like I get to hang out with Matt and Elena who come in, and it's like coming home for her, being from Madison, and having Danner there is just special, when you don't get that at every con we go to. So
for sure, they're the best.
Indeed. I think that's Gamehole. Like that felt pretty good. Any final thoughts on Gamehole other than look for the dates, sign up, and join us? Like
and it's although it'll be interesting, right? They're at max, right? They've kind of maxed. Rumors. Yeah, they've maxed out, so it'll be interesting to see what they do or what. Although it didn't feel, I don't know about you. I mean, the building inside didn't feel bad. It was interesting, like parking. I've never seen the parking, like it seemed like every parking spot in the world was.
I'll share the parking secrets after when we're not on air, so our listeners don't know.
There's some, but again, I think they've got like all the space for like running games and things like that in the space. I didn't think the space felt crowded. It's not like a Gen Con where you can't get anything.
No, so, but like hotels and Airbnbs are impossible.
Right.
And like there's not the infrastructure there in that part of Madison to support that. But it's like gaming space, the events were all full and like sold out, and there's no more room to grow. I mean,
right.
So we'll see what that means. We've had that discussion about other cons, and
Yeah.
you know, like is it Dr. Ian Malcolm says life
Yep.
finds a way.
Yep.
Gamehole finds a way.
That's the way.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, indeed. All right. So that's going to do it for episode 84 of Playin and Slayin. Thank you for joining us and hanging in there. We're going to talk about a few upcoming events and then, send you on your merry way. So let's see. RockCon, Rockford, Illinois, November 1st through the 3rd. Troy, you going to be there? Going to go hang out at RockCon?
I might make an appearance. I talked to Antita, who runs that with her husband down there. They've been for quite a few years. Because they finally moved it. They used to be like between Dragonfall, Gamehole, and RockCon. They all used to try and compete for like the same weekend.
Yeah.
I think they finally kind of spaced them out enough now that you can go to them. So we'll see. Again, Rockford is only hour-ish away from us too, so it's an easy one-day trip. You don't have to kind of make an overnighter.
Then Holy Havoc, so Steve Herner's event. Bryce and I had aspirations, but once again, the motive. We had a very clear, like, we would do this for Steve, and we have no problem sending Steve, $95 or whatever it is each every time he runs an event. But we just can't see getting the army done and then playing AOS anymore. We're both in a spot where I think we've fallen far enough away from the game that it's hard to have the motivation to finish the project, and we don't want to do it without the inspiration, the motivation being there to get it done. So like there is an aspect that someday we will finish this because it's an artistic expression, but we also don't want to keep changing the list and fitting the rules of the game and learning the rules and buying a book to play AOS for where it's at. Even though Steve's events are kind of like they sit in a special place outside, and I think anybody who might be a little bit less removed from I'm under an embargo. Like I can't actually play GW products right now, but anyone who's not, I highly recommend it because it is not like playing a true competitive AOS. You're playing a holy event, and it is incredible. It's for a great cause. The people there are wonderful. Like I might even still find a way to like go down on Sunday and just like hang out.
Yeah, there's I mean, it is like the people that are going to be there. Like again, I was jealous I'm still jealous of anybody who is going because there's all the people, all the good people are going to be there. I wish them all the best. I think it's going to be a great event. It's going to be so
absolutely
cool around that. And I think Ty, again, I'm going to go back to Spearhead. I hadn't played AOS in like 2 years, and like the AOS part of Spearhead was. Again, took me 15 minutes to remember how to like fight, so it wasn't a big deal.
Then January, Midwinter Gaming Convention, January 9th through the 12th in Pewaukee, Wisconsin. When I say Pewaukee, it sounds a lot like Milwaukee, and it's very close to Milwaukee. It's just a stone's throw west down the interstate. But the Ingleside Hotel Convention, there's a water park, bring kids, turn it into more of a family weekend, like Troy, said with Dragonfall, and gonna have Little Demons there. Anvil Lake Games gonna be playing a lot of Unknown Worlds because it'll be there. Once the backer kit wraps, they'll have copies available. So pretty big show for Paul and Jen and Anvil 8, which would be really cool to be a part of. Think you guys have some games maybe running.
We have full slate of, I think we're running games all day Friday and Saturday. So
it's awesome.
We'll have kind of a BoD table, I think, of Zombie. Again, same thing, Zombicide and Marvel Crisis Protocol.
Excellent. Exciting stuff. I'm going to stay Friday and Saturday night, I think, make a weekend of it, get Landon down there again, do the family water park thing. So definitely excited for that to get away from the dreariness of winter. Hopefully no blizzard that knocks out power and gives so much snowfall and wind and cold. But it's January in Wisconsin, so prepare.
Yeah,
be prepared. And then we already said Adepticon 154 days away. The Baird Center, Milwaukee, big gaming convention returns to the place where it really all started. I mean, it started at Egg Hall in Lake Geneva, but Gen Con Milwaukee was kind of the start. So Adepticon coming back, lots of cool stuff. We'll share more as we get a little bit closer, but keep your eyes open for stuff coming. And we've got a weekender in December, but y'all can't come to that. That's just like a small thing we do.
Yeah.
But
Intimate.
mid-December. So, in the meantime, when you're bored, find us, like us, subscribe to us on YouTube, do the things down in the bottoms, leave comments, send emails to all of us. Find us on Instagram, find us on the internet, basementofdeath.com or playinandslayin.com. We're all over. Contact us, say hi. Maybe we'll even find a way to get somebody a copy of Little Demons or something Unknown Worlds related. If you send us a very clever character idea for Unknown Worlds, and we'll see what we can do. I think that does it, though. Episode 84.
In the books.
So, in the books. And please game responsibly, but keep the dice rolling, the drinks on ice, and no matter what, keep playing and slaying.